Hello, welcome back to Math with Mr. Hengst. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to take fractions, decimals, and percents and convert them into each other. I have anchor charts behind me to kind of show you. But yeah, we're going to learn how to take a fraction, turn it to a decimal, turn that to a percent. We're going to take percent, turn it to a fraction, right? So this is the beginning of unit 2. This is kind of what we're going to build off of for the rest of this unit. Okay, so I hope that you're able to watch this video and get a better understanding of how to do this as the groundworks to the unit. And honestly, we'll be doing this throughout the school year, okay? So after you watch the video once and kind of listen to me talk about how to do it, right? You can come back to this video anytime and just skip it all the way to the end, right? And I'm gonna have all these anchor charts for you to see and a little bit of clips, so you can just skip to that and pause it, right? Whenever you're trying to do your work, if maybe you can't really remember. So I hope you enjoy the video. I hope this helps you a lot. I hope this is a very useful resource for you when doing this unit. So without further ado, let's just get right into the video because it's going to be a lot of me talking. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the one that I think is a little bit easier. It's like when we have a percent. So I'm going to start with percent to fraction. After this, I'm going to do percent to decimal. So to go from percent to fraction, we kind of need to know what a percent is. So the definition of percent actually means out of 100, right? So if we have 50%, it translates to 50 out of 100. So the best way we can do this to make it a fraction, right? The first step is to write the fraction out of 100. So if I had the example, this one is 75%, to write it out of 100, you would put 75 over 100 as a fraction, okay? And I'll write it right here a little bit bigger in case my anchor chart is a little too small to see in the video. So we'll go from 75% and we will turn that to 75 over 100, right? The next step is to simplify your fractions, okay? So if we are struggling with simplifying fractions, you'll need to go back to one of my previous videos over that. You can click my channel and go to that video as you please, because I'm not really going to go over that too much in this one. Okay, so to simplify 75 over 100, I know that the number 25 goes into both of these numbers. Okay, 25 goes into 75 3 times, and 25 goes into 100 4 times. Okay, oh yeah. Sorry, I almost wrote 45. Okay, so this is our final fraction. So we just turned 75% into a fraction by doing this. We can do another example. I'm going to move this anchor chart up in the middle. Maybe that will be a better place to put it, but I just don't know if it can really be read that well. So we'll do it right here. Okay, so another fraction. Let's try 30s. Let's do 30%, right? So I have 30%. What does 30% mean? 30% means 30 out of 100. So 30 over 100, this is how I write it as a fraction. But again, we must simplify our fractions, okay? So knowing my tips from that last simplifying video, these both end in 0. So I know the number 10 goes into both of these. I'm going to divide both of them by 10. Okay, 30 divided by 10 would be 3. And 100 divided by 10 is 10, right? 3 is my prime number, so I know I'm done there. So 30% as a fraction in simplest form would be 3/10. Okay, so now that we know how to do this, I'm gonna go to the next part, which is percent to decimal. The second conversion we're going to learn also starts with the percent, right? But this time we're turning it to a decimal. So we're not turning it to a fraction this time, we're turning it to a decimal. Only one step you need to do here. Divide by 100. So if you cannot read that, it says to go from percent to decimal, divide the percent by 100. So for the example, I'm gonna write it bigger. Okay, if we have 75%, right? it says take 75 and divide it by 100. So I'm just going to erase this percent sign and I'm going to divide it by 100. Okay, 75 divided by 100 will get you the decimal 0.75. Okay, so this is how we can do it. Now I'm going to just write something out and I'm going to show you a pattern that can make this process so much easier. So I'm going to take 75 divided by 100. I'm going to do 30 divided by 100. And I'm going to do 25 divided by 100. I'm going to do, I want to do like a small percent. So we'll do 2%. 2% divided by 100 equals 0.02. Okay, so with all of these written, we're gonna look for a pattern, okay? So I start with 75. Divided by 100, I get 0.75. I have 30 divided by 100, 0.30. 25 divided by 100, 0.25. 2 divided by 100, 0.02, okay? What are we noticing? We're noticing that with our percent, all right, even though there's no decimal, we know the decimal's at the end because this is a whole number, right? What we're doing is we are moving the decimal 2 spots to the left, okay? So we are having, I'm gonna erase this so I have more room, y'all. We are moving the decimal 2 spots to the left for each of these. This is a very helpful tip, but you need to know that it's going to the left because if you get this confused, it can really get you the wrong answer, okay? Because decimals can be in percents and you will see that. And I'll show you an example of that when we turn a fraction to a decimal and then turn that to a percent, right? So, so an easier way, if we had 99%, we need to turn that to a decimal, right? We know it's a whole number, so the decimal's at the end. And if we move it 2 spots to our left, right? Now we have 0.99, okay? This is a quick tip, all right? It's kind of like a cheat, right? To get us our percents to decimals, okay? I really recommend this. I think it's the easiest, quickest way to get this done. Okay, so now that we've done percent to decimal, we're gonna move into what happens when we're given decimals, okay? So we're gonna start by turning a decimal to a percent. Now we're starting off with the decimal and we're going to a percent. So it's the opposite of what we've just done. We just did percent to decimal. Now we're doing the opposite. So what's the opposite of dividing by 100? Right, it's multiplying by 100. We're getting it back to a percent. So now if you're starting with 0.25, to get that to a percent, you're going to need to multiply by 100 and it will give you 25%. Again, if you're giving 0.99, you multiply it by 100 and you get 99%. If you're given 0.02 times 100, you are given 2%. Okay, what if I did, let's do 0.125, right? This is going to be a benchmark fraction that we should know, and we'll get into that. But when we multiply this by 100, it's not 125%, so do not make that mistake, okay? If you move the decimal, or if you multiply by 100, it is 12.5%, right? It's not 125%. I see this mistake a lot that people will just say, oh, how will we make a decimal to a percent? You just erase the decimal and the 0. Not true, right? You multiply it by 100, and if you use the trick, it's kind of the opposite of what we just learned. So instead of moving the decimal 2 spots to the left, you're going to move the decimal 2 spots to the right. That is the tip for this one. So when we get down to this one where it's 0.125, you're only moving it 2 spots to the right. 1, 2. So now the decimal is between the 2 and the 5, which gives us 12.5%. Okay, I cannot stress it enough that you are allowed to have decimals in your percent. Okay, so do not forget that, do not make that mistake. So decimal to percent, move the decimal twice to the right. Percent to decimal, move the decimal twice to the left. The next conversion we're going to go over is decimal to fraction. So we're going to be given a decimal, we're going to turn it to a fraction. Okay, as a math teacher, I understand in these last 3 slides or last 3 clips, I've been saying 0.25, 0.30, 0.02. I'm aware that I'm not naming them or I'm not saying them in the mathematical way. I wanted to save it for this so we can go over that, okay? So we got to know our place value, right? So when we are given this number, 0.25, if we go back to what we learned in the past and we use place value, how would we say 0.25 mathematically the correct way? We would call this 25 hundredths, right? Because it ends in the hundredths place. So this is 25 hundredths, okay? Since we know that, let's write it how we say it. It is 25 hundredths. 25 over 100, okay? So now we need to, just like when we turn percent to fractions, we need to turn this, we need to simplify. Take what we have and simplify if it can, okay? But I do know 25 can be, 25 and 100 have some common factors, right? The greatest common factor would be 25. So when I simplify this, 25 goes into 25 1 time, 25 goes into 100 4 times. So 25 hundredths or 0.25, right? That can be converted into a fraction and it would be 1/4 when simplified. Okay, so I'll do one more of these because I think the fractions, when we turn things to fractions, it can be a little more confusing. So I'll go over one more with y'all. We'll do 0. We'll do a different, we'll do 0.45. I like 0.45. 0.45, how do we say this mathematically using place value? We would say 45 hundredths. 45 hundredths, right? So I'm gonna write it like I say it, 45 hundredths, 45 over 100, okay? If I go back from the tips I learned in that simplifying fractions video, 1 ends in a 5, 1's in a 0. They can be simplified by 5. So I'm gonna divide both by 5, right? 45 divided by 5 is 9. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Okay, there are no common factors that go into both 9 and 20 other than 1, so I know I'm done. Right? So 45 hundredths or 0.45 as a fraction simplified, right? It would be 9/20ths. Okay, so now that we know how to take decimals and convert them to percents and fractions, we will go to the final section of the video where now we're given fractions and we need to turn them into a decimal or percent. So let's go ahead and get right into that. So now we'll be learning how to take a fraction and turn it into a decimal, okay? When we're given fractions, this is where I see the most mistakes, okay? Because there's not really some quick way to understand how to do this, right? We actually have to bring in what we know with math and we have to do a little math with it, okay? And that's fine, right? So the first step to do this, to take a fraction and make it a decimal, you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. And sorry, that's the only step we're gonna do, okay? So when we're given 1/2, right? You take the numerator, which is the top number, and divide it by the denominator, which is the bottom number, okay? So we're gonna put 1 inside the house, 2 on the outside. 2 goes into 1 0 times. I'm going to need to add my 0, okay? And I'm putting the decimal here. I'm moving it up so I don't get my math wrong, right? And 2 goes into 10 5 times. All right, I got 0, so I know I'm done with my division. So 1/2 as a decimal would be 0.5. Let's go ahead and do one more. Let's do another benchmark fraction that we should know, and if not, we'll be working with them so much that you will have these memorized, right? So 3/4, let's do 3/4. Okay, divide the numerator by the denominator, so I'm dividing 3 by 4. Okay, 3 on the inside, 4 on the outside. 4 does not go into 3. Mark my decimal, move it up, add a 0, right? 4 goes into 30, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, right? 7 times. Right, 2. And how many times does 4 go into 20? Right, you can go into it 5 times to get us 20. And we're left with 0.75. Right, so 3/4 as a decimal would be 0.75. Again, all you got to do is divide that numerator by the denominator and you will get your decimal. Okay, so now let's go into how to figure out how to turn a fraction into a percent. So here's our last conversion. We're going to take a fraction and turn it into a percent. This is another 2-step conversion. So first, we're going to convert our fraction to a decimal, just like we did in the last clip, right? So I know that 1/2, right? How do we turn it to a decimal? Numerator divided by denominator. 1 divided by 2, we got us 0.5. Okay, and now we need to do another step that we learned is by taking our decimal and turning it to a percent. So what were the 2 ways? You can multiply it by 100 to get you 50%, or use that the other step that we taught, right? Take our decimal, move it 1, 2 spots to the right, and that gets us 50% as well, right? So those are the 2 ways you can do that to take a fraction and turn it to a percent. So let's do one more. I want to do 9/10, okay? So we're going to take 9/10, right? Convert it to a decimal. Numerator divided by denominator, right? 10 cannot go into 9. Add my decimal, bring it up. 10 can go into 90. How many times? 9 times to get us 90. When we subtract, we're at 0, so we know we're done. Decimal is done. Fraction to decimal is 0.9. But we need it to a percent. So how do we make it a percent? 2 ways, right? 0.9 times 100. Or take 0.9 and move that decimal twice to the right. Okay? 1, 2 would get us 90%. And multiplying by 100 would also get us 90%. Alright, so thank you for watching this lesson. I hope that you have learned how to take fractions, decimals, and percents and convert them into each other, right? If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. I'm going to step aside so you can see all of these anchor charts, and maybe after watching the video, if you need to come back to it to remember the rules, you can just skip ahead to the end, right? And you have these. So thank you again for watching the video. If there's any questions, please comment below like always, and I would be more than happy to answer them the best I can. So yes, welcome to Unit 2.